I used to believe that fear came from big things. Failure, losing money, ending up alone. But the truth is, the deepest fear comes from something much quieter. It comes from realizing that the people who laughed with you every day, the people who knew your secrets, the people you trusted with your life, were never really on your side. I didn't learn that lesson all at once. It took years. It took silence. And it started with one small lie in college that I never thought would matter. I'm not telling this story to blame anyone. I'm telling it because maybe you're living inside a similar story right now. Maybe you feel that tight feeling in your chest when you walk into a room full of people who call themselves your friends. Maybe you feel like you're always one mistake away from being pushed out. I know that feeling. I lived in it. Back then, I was just a regular guy trying to survive college. Nothing special. No rich family. No big connections. Just a quiet kid from a small town who believed that friendship was something you earned by being loyal. I believed that if I showed up for people, they'd show up for me. I was wrong. College was supposed to be my fresh start. That's what everyone said. New place, new people, new life. I remember the first day like it happened yesterday. The campus was loud. Too loud. People everywhere, dragging suitcases, laughing too hard, acting like they already belonged. I stood there holding my backpack, pretending I wasn't scared. I didn't grow up with confidence. I grew up learning how to stay quiet, how to observe, how to not be a problem. So when I walked into that dorm building, I told myself one thing. Just don't mess this up. That's when I met them. There were 4 of us at first. 5, including me. Jason was the loud one. Always joking. Always talking. The kind of guy who could walk into any room and take it over without trying. Marcus was calm. Smart. The thinker. He spoke less. But when he did, people listened. Evan was the funny one. Not loud, but quick. The kind of humor that sneaks up on you and makes you laugh when you didn't plan to. And then there was Leo. Quiet like me. Or at least that's what I thought at first. We didn't become friends instantly. It happened slowly. Late-night conversations. Shared meals. Group study sessions that turned into life talks. I remember thinking, man, maybe this is it. Maybe this is where I finally belong. We did everything together. Classes. Lunch. Parties. Even though I never really liked them. I wasn't the kind of guy who loved attention. I liked sitting back, listening, taking it all in. And that's probably why they trusted me. Or maybe that's why they didn't. I was the listener. The safe one. The guy people talked to when they didn't want to be judged. Jason talked about his fear of failing his dad. Marcus talked about pressure. Evan joked about his pain, but I could hear it underneath. Leo, he talked about loneliness. And I listened. Always. I never thought listening could become dangerous. The lie didn't start as a lie. That's the part people don't understand. It started as a half-truth. A moment of insecurity. A tiny adjustment to reality that felt harmless. We were sitting in the dorm one night, just talking about life before college. Jason asked me where I was from. I told him the name of my town. He laughed, not in a cruel way, just surprised. Man, that place is tiny, he said. Did you even have internet out there? Everyone laughed. I laughed too, but something inside me tightened. I didn't want to be the small-town kid, the nobody, the guy with no stories worth telling. So when Marcus asked what my parents did for work, I hesitated. Just for a second. My dad worked long hours doing manual labor. My mom cleaned houses. I was proud of them. I really was. But in that moment, surrounded by confident voices and big dreams, I felt small. So I said something different. Not a big lie. Not something crazy. I said my dad worked in construction management. I said my mom did private home services. The room nodded. No questions. No drama. And just like that, something shifted. I didn't feel ashamed anymore. I felt safe. That was the first mistake. From there, the lie grew legs. Not because I wanted it to, but because people kept asking questions. Where do your parents live? What kind of house did you grow up in? Did you ever think about going to a private school? I didn't invent wild stories. I just polished the truth a little more each time. And no one questioned it. Why would they? I was the quiet one. The honest one. The guy who never caused trouble. College life moved fast. Weeks turned into months. We shared secrets. We shared laughs. We shared plans about the future. I helped them study. I covered for them when they missed class. I listened when they were hurting. I thought that meant something. But friendships built on imbalance always crack. I didn't notice the shift at first. Jason started making jokes that felt sharper. Marcus became distant. Evan stopped inviting me to things unless others were there. Leo, he watched me differently. Like he was waiting. I told myself I was overthinking it. I always did that. Then one night, everything changed. We were at a small off-campus party. Nothing wild. Just music, cheap drinks, familiar faces. I went outside to get some air. That's when I heard my name. I wasn't meant to hear it, but I did. Jason's voice. Low. Serious. He's not who he says he is. My chest tightened. Marcus responded. What do you mean? Jason laughed softly. I checked. His story doesn't add up. The world felt quiet. Like someone had turned the volume down on reality. I stood there, frozen, listening to my life being taken apart piece by piece. That was the moment I realized something terrifying. Fear doesn't come from being alone. It comes from knowing you're about to be. And the people you trusted most are the ones pushing you there. I didn't walk back inside that night. I went back to my room and sat on my bed in the dark. I kept thinking. It was just one lie. Just one. But I was about to learn something I wish I'd known sooner. In real life, it only takes one lie for people to rewrite everything they think they know about you. And once they start, they don't stop. I didn't sleep much after that night. I kept replaying those words in my head. He's not who he says he is. They sounded louder in the dark. Sharper. Like they were cutting into something soft inside me. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. My room felt smaller than usual. The walls felt closer. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the floor for a long time, trying to decide what kind of day this was going to be. Part of me wanted to confront them. Just walk up and say it. Tell the truth. Explain everything. But another part of me felt tired already. Tired of explaining. Tired of defending myself. So I did what I always did when I felt unsure. I stayed quiet. I went to class like nothing happened. I took notes. I nodded at the professor. I smiled when people talked to me. But inside, I was listening for danger. Every laugh felt suspicious. Every whisper felt personal. When I met the guys later that day, something was different. Not loud different. Quiet different. Jason didn't look me in the eye. Marcus was polite but distant. Evan laughed, but it felt forced. Leo watched me. Always watching. We sat at our usual table in the cafeteria. Same seats. Same routine. But the air felt heavier. Jason talked about a group project. Marcus asked about an exam. Normal stuff. No one mentioned the lie. No one mentioned the night before. And that scared me more than if they had. Silence can be louder than shouting. I started noticing small things after that. How conversations stopped when I walked into the room. How plans were made without me, then mentioned casually, like I was supposed to already know. How jokes started landing just a little too close to home. Man, must be nice having everything handed to you, Jason said one day, smiling. I laughed. Everyone else did too. But something twisted in my stomach. I wanted to say something. I wanted to clear the air. But fear is strange like that. The longer you carry it, the heavier it gets. Days turned into weeks. I became careful with my words. I avoided personal topics. I stopped sharing. The guy who used to listen was now hiding. One night, Marcus asked me to help him study. Just the two of us. I felt hopeful. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe things weren't as bad as I thought. We sat in the library, books open, laptops glowing. For a while, it felt normal. Then he closed his book. So, he said, calm, almost too calm. Your dad works in construction management, right? My heart dropped. Yeah, I said. My voice sounded far away. Marcus nodded slowly. Which company? I froze. I named one I'd heard before. It came out too fast. Marcus leaned back in his chair. He said. My uncle works there. Silence. I could hear my own breathing. He's never mentioned your dad, Marcus added. I swallowed. Different department, I said. Marcus stared at me for a long moment. Then he smiled. Not a friendly smile. A careful one. Got it, he said. We didn't study much after that. That night, I stared at the ceiling again. I realized something then. Once people start doubting you, everything you say becomes evidence. I started feeling like I was on trial. Jason stopped texting me unless he needed something. Evan avoided being alone with me. Leo started asking questions. Little ones. Casual ones. Where did you intern last summer? What kind of car did your parents drive? Did you ever travel growing up? Each question felt like a test. Each answer felt like a risk. I was trapped between two bad choices. Tell the truth and look like a liar. Or keep lying and become one. I told myself I was protecting myself. Protecting my place in the group. Protecting the version of me they accepted. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was scared. College had become more than classes and grades. It was my identity. My proof that I mattered. Losing my friends felt like losing myself. The turning point came during midterms. Stress was high. Everyone was tense. We were all sitting in our dorm common room, pretending to study. Jason was pacing. Marcus was typing aggressively. Evan cracked jokes that no one laughed at. Leo sat across from me, quiet. Then he spoke. "You ever feel like people lie because they think the truth isn't good enough?" he asked. No one answered. He looked at me. My throat tightened. "I think lying is worse than failing," he continued. "At least failure is honest." The room went still. Jason stopped pacing. Marcus looked up. I felt exposed, like someone had turned a spotlight on me. "I agree," Marcus said slowly. "Trust matters." Jason nodded. "Yeah, once it's broken, that's it." I wanted to disappear. I wanted to scream. Instead, I stayed quiet. That night, I realized something else. They weren't asking if I lied. They had already decided I did. Now they were deciding what to do with that. The next week, things got colder. They stopped saving me seats. Stopped waiting for me. Stopped including me. I was still there, but I wasn't part of them anymore. I became invisible. One afternoon, I overheard Evan talking to someone else. "He's weird now," Evan said. "Always quiet. Feels fake." Fake. That word stuck with me. I started questioning everything about myself. Was I fake? Had I always been? Or was this just who I became when I was afraid? I thought about my parents. About how hard they worked. About how proud they were of me. I felt ashamed. Not because of where I came from, but because I was hiding it. I decided I couldn't live like this anymore. So I planned to tell the truth. Not dramatically. Not emotionally. Just honestly. I waited for the right moment. It came on a Friday night. We were all together again, for the first time in weeks. Jason's idea. One last hangout, I guess. We sat in the same place we always did. I could feel it. This was it. My hands were shaking. "I need to say something," I said. Everyone looked at me. I took a breath. "I haven't been fully honest about my family," I began. Jason leaned back. Marcus crossed his arms. Evan looked uncomfortable. Leo watched closely. "My parents don't work corporate jobs," I said. "They work hard. Manual jobs." And I lied because I felt small. Silence. "I'm sorry," I said. "I should have told the truth." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Jason laughed. Not a friendly laugh. A sharp one. "Wow," he said. "So you admit it." Marcus shook his head. "Man, that's messed up." Evan sighed. "Why lie about something like that?" Leo stayed quiet. I felt my chest tighten. "I didn't think it mattered," I said. "I just wanted to fit in." Jason stood up. "You don't fit in because you lied," he said. "You let us trust you." That hurt. Because I had trusted them too. Marcus added. "Makes you wonder what else you lied about." That hurt more. No one defended me. Not one. That's when I understood something painful. Friendships don't always end with shouting. Sometimes they end with quiet judgment. They left one by one. I stayed behind, sitting alone. I felt lighter and heavier at the same time. Lighter because the truth was out. Heavier because it didn't save me. That night, I cried for the first time in years. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quiet tears in the dark. I thought telling the truth would fix everything. I didn't realize it was only the beginning. Because what comes after betrayal is not anger. It's isolation. And I was about to learn how lonely that could be. After that night, things didn't explode. They faded. And that was worse. I used to think friendship ended with yelling. With doors slamming. With someone saying something unforgivable. But real life isn't like the movies. In real life, people just stop showing up. The next morning, my phone was quiet. No group chat. No jokes. No plans. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. Like maybe it would blink back to life if I waited. It didn't. I walked to class alone for the first time since the semester started. The campus felt louder when I wasn't laughing with anyone. Every group I passed felt like a reminder of something I lost. I saw Jason across the quad. He saw me too. He looked away. That small moment hurt more than the confrontation. More than the accusations. Because it told me everything I needed to know. I didn't exist to them anymore. In class, I sat in my usual seat. But it didn't feel like mine. Marcus sat 2 rows ahead, talking quietly to someone else. Evan was laughing near the aisle. Leo wasn't there. I wondered if he felt guilty. Or relieved. Or nothing at all. When class ended, no one waited for me. I packed my bag slowly, hoping someone would turn around. Say my name. Say something. No one did. That's how isolation starts. Not all at once, but one moment at a time. Lunch became the hardest part of the day. I'd walk into the cafeteria and scan the room without meaning to. looking for familiar faces, looking for a place to sit. I stopped sitting at our old table. It felt wrong, like trespassing on a memory. So I sat alone, near the window, always near the window. I told myself I liked the view. But really, I just didn't want anyone sitting across from me, asking questions I couldn't answer. People noticed. They always do. Noticed that I was alone. Noticed that I was quieter than before. Noticed that I wasn't included. And in college, being noticed for the wrong reasons spreads fast. Rumors don't need facts. They just need space. I started hearing things. He lied about his family. Yeah, kinda sketchy. I heard he made stuff up to sound rich. Who knows what else isn't real? No one asked me directly. They never do. They just let the story grow. I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to explain. But explain what? That I was insecure? That I wanted to belong? That I didn't think a small lie would cost me everything? Those aren't good excuses in a world that loves judgment. So I stayed quiet. Again. Weeks passed. I stopped getting invited to parties. Stopped being included in study groups. Stopped existing in group photos. I watched my old friends move on without me. That hurt more than the loss itself. Because it meant I was replaceable. I started eating less. Sleeping more. Skipping social spaces. My world shrank. I spent more time in my room, lying on my bed, staring at the ceiling. I replayed every moment. Every word. Every choice. I kept thinking, if I had just said the truth from the start. But regret doesn't fix anything. It just teaches you how to suffer better. One night, my mom called. I almost didn't answer. I didn't know how to sound normal. Hey, honey, she said. Her voice was warm. Familiar. How's school? I swallowed. It's fine, I said. That was another lie. But this one felt different. This one was about protecting her. She told me about work. About my dad's sore back. About how proud they were of me. I felt my chest tighten. They believed in me. Completely. Without conditions. I wondered what they'd think if they knew I was ashamed of them once. That thought hurt more than losing my friends. After the call, I sat in silence. I realized something then. I didn't just lose friends. I lost my sense of worth. Because I had tied it to their acceptance. And when they walked away, they took that with them. Midterms came and went. Grades slipped. Not because I wasn't capable, but because I was tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of being invisible. Tired of carrying shame alone. One afternoon, I ran into Leo. Literally. We collided near the library entrance. Books fell. Papers scattered. We both bent down to pick them up. Our eyes met. He hesitated. You okay? He asked. I nodded. Yeah. There was an awkward pause. I didn't mean for things to go like that, he said quietly. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was painful. Things go how they go, I said. He nodded. I guess, he said. Then he stood up. And walked away. That was it. No apology. No defense. No closure. Just distance. I learned then that some people don't betray you loudly. They betray you by doing nothing. By choosing comfort over loyalty. By letting silence do the damage. The semester felt endless after that. Days blurred together. I spoke less. Smiled less. Expected nothing. I started sitting in the back of every room. Leaving early. Arriving late. I stopped trying to belong. Because trying hurts when you keep failing. One night, I found myself scrolling through old photos. Group selfies. Laughing faces. Moments that felt real at the time. I wondered if any of it was. Did they ever see me as a friend? Or was I just convenient? I deleted the photos. All of them. It felt like erasing proof that I once mattered. But also like breathing again. Near the end of the semester, something inside me shifted. Not healing. Not strength. Just acceptance. I stopped waiting for them to come back. I stopped hoping for apologies. I stopped needing them to understand me. And in that quiet space, something uncomfortable appeared. Loneliness. Real loneliness. The kind that doesn't panic. The kind that just sits with you. I started walking at night. Campus was different then. Quiet. Honest. I thought about who I was before college. Before I tried to impress anyone. I remembered the kid who didn't talk much, but felt deeply. The kid who listened. The kid who didn't think being quiet meant being less. Somewhere along the way, I had forgotten him. I realized something painful but true. The lie didn't cost me my friends. It revealed who they were. And who I was becoming. I didn't like that version of myself. The one who hid. The one who lied. The one who measured his worth by other people's approval. So I made a quiet promise. No more pretending. No more shaping myself to fit rooms that didn't want me. No more silence just to keep peace. I didn't know what that meant yet. I didn't know how to rebuild. But I knew one thing. This wasn't the end. It was the fall. And every fall teaches you how to stand differently. I was about to learn that the hardest part of betrayal isn't losing people. It's facing yourself afterward. And that lesson was just beginning. The quiet didn't hit all at once. It settled in slowly, like dust you don't notice until everything feels heavy. By the time winter showed up, I had learned how to disappear without leaving campus. I still went to class, still turned in assignments, still nodded at people I recognized. But I wasn't really there. I was surviving on routine, not purpose. Every morning, I woke up before my alarm. Not because I was rested, because my mind never shut off. I'd lie there, staring at the ceiling, replaying moments that no longer existed. Laughs that had faded. Conversations that now felt fake. I wondered how something that once felt so solid could vanish so quietly. That's the part no one warns you about. When people leave your life, they don't take the noise with them. They take the warmth. And what's left feels cold even when you're surrounded by others. I stopped eating in the cafeteria. I told myself the food made my stomach hurt. But really, I couldn't stand sitting alone in a room full of people pretending not to notice me. So I bought cheap food from the corner store. Microwave meals. Protein bars. Anything that didn't require company. I started skipping things I used to enjoy. The gym. Study lounges. Even the library at busy hours. Not because I hated those places, but because I hated how invisible I felt inside them. People talk about loneliness like it's dramatic, like crying in the rain or staring out a window with sad music playing. But real loneliness is boring. It's quiet nights, cold leftovers, scrolling through your phone knowing no one's going to text. It's checking your notifications and realizing the silence isn't temporary. It's the new normal. I remember one Friday night in particular. Music was blasting somewhere nearby. Laughter floated through the hallways. I sat on my bed, lights off, shoes still on, listening. I wasn't invited. I didn't even expect to be, but my body still reacted like it hurt. I thought about going for a walk, about distracting myself. Instead, I stayed. I let the feeling sit. That night, I realized something uncomfortable. I wasn't just lonely. I was grieving. Not just the loss of friends, but the loss of who I thought I was going to be. College was supposed to be the place where I found my people, where I built memories, where I became confident. Instead, I felt smaller than ever. I started doubting everything about myself. Was I boring? Was I awkward? Was I always this forgettable? Or did the lie make me unworthy of forgiveness? I didn't know. I just knew that shame has a way of rewriting your identity. It tells you that you deserve what happened, that you brought it on yourself, that you should have known better. And the worst part? A piece of me believed it. I stopped calling home as often, not because I didn't love my parents, but because I couldn't handle their hope. Every time my mom asked if I was happy, my chest tightened. Every time my dad said he was proud, I felt like I was lying to them too. So I pulled back, just a little at first, then more. I didn't realize I was isolating myself from the people who actually cared. I was so focused on the ones who left. My grades dipped again. I missed deadlines. Forgot assignments. Not because I didn't care, but because I couldn't concentrate. My thoughts were always somewhere else. One afternoon, a professor asked me to stay after class. "You've been quiet," he said gently. "You okay?" I nodded. "Just tired," I said. He looked at me for a moment. "College can be lonely," he said. "Don't let that convince you you're failing at life." I smiled politely, but inside, I thought, "You have no idea." I started questioning my future, my major, my goals, my worth. Everything felt unstable. I felt like I was floating without direction. Some nights, I'd lie in bed and imagine leaving. Not dramatically, not running away, just disappearing, transferring, starting over somewhere new, where no one knew my name, where no one knew my mistake. But then I'd remember something important. I didn't just want a new place. I wanted a new version of myself. And that scared me, because I didn't know who that was yet. The holidays came. Campus emptied out. Suitcases rolled down hallways. Goodbyes echoed. I packed slowly. No one asked where I was going. No one asked if I'd be back. I went home feeling heavier than when I left. Home was warm, familiar, but I felt different there too. My parents hugged me like they always did. They didn't notice how thin I'd gotten, how tired my eyes looked. Or maybe they did, and they chose not to say anything. At dinner, my mom asked about my friends. I hesitated. "They're busy," I said. Another lie. But this one tasted bitter. That night, lying in my childhood bed, I stared at the ceiling. Same ceiling from years ago. Same cracks. Same shadows. I felt like I had gone in a circle. All that effort, all that hope, just to end up feeling smaller than before. I wondered if this was who I really was. Someone who fades out of rooms. Someone people leave behind. I didn't sleep much that night either. When I went back to campus after break, I made a decision. Not a big one. Not a dramatic one. Just a quiet shift. I stopped chasing. Stopped checking social media. Stopped watching what others were doing. I focused on my own routines. Studying alone. Walking alone. Thinking alone. At first, it felt empty. Then slowly, it felt honest. Without distraction, I started hearing my own thoughts again. Not the fearful ones. The deeper ones. The ones that asked questions instead of judging. Why did I feel the need to impress? Why did I believe being ordinary wasn't enough? Why did I think people had to approve of me for me to matter? Those questions didn't have easy answers, but they were mine. One night, while walking across campus, snow falling lightly, I stopped under a streetlight. I watched the snow collect on my jacket. Quiet. Soft. No one else around. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel anxious. I felt present. I realized something simple. I had been running from discomfort my whole life. From being unseen. From being judged. From being ordinary. The lie wasn't about money or status. It was about fear. Fear that who I really was wasn't enough. And losing my friends forced me to sit with that fear. To look it in the face. I wasn't healed. Not even close. But I wasn't broken either. I was learning. Slowly. Painfully. Honestly. The fall wasn't over yet. But I could feel the ground beneath me now. And once you feel the ground, you can start to stand. I didn't know it then, but the hardest lessons come right before clarity. And clarity was closer than I thought. Something changed after that winter. Not suddenly. Not in a way I could explain to anyone else. It was more like a slow internal shift, the kind that only happens when you've sat with pain long enough that it stops screaming and starts talking. I was still alone most days. Still quiet. Still careful. But I wasn't running anymore. I woke up one morning and realized I didn't feel dread. No tight chest. No heavy thoughts rushing in before my feet hit the floor. Just stillness. I lay there for a few minutes, listening to the hum of the heater, the distant sounds of campus waking up. And I thought, okay, I'm still here. That felt like something. I started going to class earlier than I needed to. Sitting near the front, not the back. Not because I wanted attention, but because I wanted to stop hiding. I raised my hand once. Then again. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, like I hadn't used it in a while. But no one laughed. No one judged. The world didn't collapse. That surprised me. I began to understand something important. Most people aren't watching you the way you think they are. They're too busy dealing with their own mess. That realization didn't erase my pain, but it softened it. I started taking longer walks. Not to escape, just to move. There's something about walking without headphones that forces you to listen to yourself. I noticed how my thoughts had changed. They weren't cruel anymore. They were curious. Why did that hurt so much? Why did I give those people so much power over how I saw myself? The answers came slowly. Because I wanted to be chosen. Because I wanted proof that I mattered. Because I thought being liked meant being safe. And when that disappeared, I felt exposed. But exposure isn't the same as being broken. I didn't realize that back then. One afternoon, I sat in the campus coffee shop alone. Same place where I used to sit with them. Same table. I almost left when I realized where I was. Then I stayed. I ordered a coffee. Sat down. Pulled out my notebook. And for the first time in months, I wrote. Not notes. Not assignments. Just thoughts. Raw ones. I wrote about the lie. About the fear behind it. About the way silence can feel louder than rejection. I wrote about my parents. About how hard they worked. About how proud I actually was of them. I wrote about shame. And when I finished, my hands were shaking. But my chest felt lighter. I kept writing after that. Not every day, but often. It became a way to talk without needing an audience. A way to be honest without consequences. Through writing, I started seeing patterns. I wasn't the only one pretending. I just got caught. So many people were hiding parts of themselves. Money, family, fear. College was full of masks. Mine just cracked early. That thought didn't excuse my lie, but it gave me context. It gave me compassion. For myself, I started talking to people again. Not trying to impress. Not trying to belong. Just talking. A guy in my class. A girl who sat next to me in the library. The barista who remembered my order. Small conversations. Low stakes. No pretending. And something interesting happened. People responded. Not dramatically. Not instantly. But genuinely. I laughed again. Quietly. I realized how exhausting it was to be someone else. Being myself felt easier. One night, I ran into Jason. It caught me off guard. We passed each other near the dorm entrance. He hesitated. So did I? Hey, he said. Hey, I replied. There was an awkward pause. He looked older somehow. More tired. You doing okay? He asked. I nodded. Yeah. You. He shrugged. Same old. We stood there for a second. Then he said, no hard feelings, man. I studied his face. I realized something in that moment. I didn't need his apology. I didn't need his approval. What I needed, I already had. Take care, I said. And I meant it. I walked away feeling calm. Not victorious. Just done. That was the moment I knew I had crossed something invisible. The part of grief where you stop needing the past to change. I started calling home again. More honestly, I didn't tell my parents everything. But I didn't hide either. I told them college was harder than I expected. My mom listened. My dad told me hard years teach the best lessons. I believed him. I began to see my story differently. Not as failure, but as initiation. The kind of experience that strips you down so you can rebuild with intention. I wasn't healed yet, but I was real, and that felt stronger than confidence ever did. I still had lonely nights. Still had moments where the memory stung. But now I understood something. Pain doesn't mean you're weak. Sometimes it means you're paying attention. I didn't know what the next chapter would look like, but I knew one thing for sure. I would never lie about who I came from again, because where I came from was honest. And honesty, I learned, doesn't always make life easier, but it makes it lighter. And that was enough to keep going. By the time spring arrived, I had stopped measuring my days by who noticed me. That alone felt like progress. The air felt lighter. Campus felt alive again. People walked faster, smiled more. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was watching life from the outside. I was still alone often, but it wasn't the painful kind anymore. It was the chosen kind. There's a difference between being alone because you're unwanted and being alone because you're listening to yourself. I was doing the second one now. I joined a small study group for one of my classes. Nothing fancy, just 3 other people. No loud personalities. No ego battles. We met once a week in the library. At first, I didn't talk much. Old habits don't disappear overnight. But no one pushed me. No one demanded anything. And that safety made it easier to show up. One of them, Daniel, talked openly about his struggles. Failed exams. Family pressure. Another, Rachel, was blunt but kind. She didn't sugarcoat things, but she listened. I noticed something. No one was trying to impress anyone. And it felt real. I didn't tell them my whole story. Not right away. But I didn't lie either. When they asked where I was from, I told them the truth. Small town. Working class family. No drama. No explanation. They nodded and moved on. That moment stayed with me. I had spent so much time fearing judgment that I forgot something simple. Most people don't judge what you don't apologize for. As weeks passed, those small connections grew. Not fast. Not intense. But steady. We studied. We joked. We complained about exams. And when one of us had a bad day, we said it out loud. No pretending. I realized something then. Trust doesn't come from perfection. It comes from consistency. From showing up as yourself, again and again. I started thinking about my old friends. Not with anger. With distance. I saw the cracks I had ignored before. How everything felt like competition. How worth was measured by status. How vulnerability was rare. We were all scared kids pretending to be confident adults. And when my lie broke that illusion, it made everyone uncomfortable. So they rejected me. Not because I was the worst one, but because I reminded them of their own fear. That understanding didn't excuse their behavior, but it released me from needing their validation. I stopped defining betrayal as something personal. Sometimes, people betray you because they can't face themselves. One afternoon, I got an unexpected message. From Evan. I stared at the screen for a long time before opening it. Hey man. Random, but I've been thinking. Hope you're doing okay. That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just a line. I typed a response. Deleted it. Typed again. Deleted again. Finally, I wrote, I'm good. Hope you are too. And that was all. I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel pain. I felt neutral. And neutrality felt powerful. I realized something important. Healing doesn't mean reopening old doors. Sometimes it means locking them gently and walking forward. I focused more on my writing. More on my studies. More on my own pace. I stopped comparing my timeline to others. Stopped asking where I should be. I was exactly where I needed to be. One night, Daniel asked me a question that caught me off guard. You ever feel like something broke you, but also saved you? He asked. I thought about it. Yeah, I said slowly. All the time. He nodded like he understood. That conversation stayed with me, because it put words to what I couldn't explain before. Losing my friends didn't just hurt me. It stripped away the version of me that depended on others to feel whole. And in that loss, I found something steadier. My own voice. My own values. My own boundaries. I was more careful with trust now. Not closed. Just intentional. I didn't overshare. Didn't hide. I let people earn access. And I learned how to walk away without bitterness when they didn't. Near the end of the semester, I passed Leo on campus. We made eye contact. This time, he nodded. So did I. No tension. No resentment. Just acknowledgement. That moment felt like closure. Not because we talked, but because I didn't need to. I had changed. Not into someone louder. Not into someone harder. But into someone grounded. I finally understood something that took me years to learn. You don't lose people because you're not enough. You lose people because you stop pretending. And the right ones stay when you're real. I didn't know what the future held, but I wasn't afraid anymore. Because I trusted myself now. And that trust was something no one could take away. I still remember the first night everything felt different. Not loud different. Not dramatic different. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that sits heavy in your chest and makes you notice things you never paid attention to before. I was sitting on my dorm bed, back against the wall, laptop closed for once. Outside, I could hear people laughing. Someone was playing music down the hall. Life was moving on like normal. But inside my room, it felt like time had slowed down just for me. That was the night I realized something was wrong. Up until then, college had felt like a second chance at life. A fresh start. New faces. New stories. New versions of ourselves. I had come in carrying hope like a backpack full of books. Heavy, but worth it. And my friends, they were everything to me. There was Marcus. Loud. Funny. Always had a joke ready. The kind of guy who could walk into a room and make it feel warmer. People followed him without even knowing why. Then there was Ethan. Quiet. Sharp. Observant. He noticed things before anyone else did. If something felt off, Ethan already knew it. And Jake. Jake was the one I trusted the most. My roommate. My brother in everything but blood. Late night talks. Shared food. Shared stress. Shared silence when words felt useless. We were a unit. Or at least, that's what I believed. Back then, I didn't understand how fragile friendships can be when pressure gets involved. How easy it is for loyalty to crack when fear whispers in someone's ear. It started small. It always does. A missed reply in the group chat. A joke that landed wrong. A look exchanged when I wasn't included. At first, I brushed it off. Told myself I was overthinking. College stress messes with your head. Everyone gets busy. Everyone gets tired. That's what I told myself. But deep down, something felt different. Like I was standing in the same room, but the air had changed. The lie hadn't exploded yet, but it was breathing. I didn't know it then, but someone had already started talking. It was a stupid lie. A careless one. One sentence that got twisted into something ugly. Someone said I had cheated on a group project. That was it. No proof. No conversation. Just a rumor, passed from mouth to mouth, growing teeth as it traveled. I didn't hear it directly. That's how these things work. You always hear it last. I noticed it in the way people stopped sitting next to me in class. In the way conversations paused when I walked in. In the way my friends suddenly looked busy when I asked to hang out. That night, I asked Jake what was going on. He didn't look at me right away. That hurt more than anything. I don't know, man, he said finally. Things are just weird right now. Weird. That word felt like a slap wrapped in cotton. I asked him if I did something wrong. If I upset anyone. If there was something I needed to explain. He shrugged. I mean, people are saying stuff. What stuff? I asked. He hesitated. And in that hesitation, I felt something crack. They're saying you copied parts of the project, he said. That you didn't do your share. My chest tightened. That's not true, I said. You know that's not true. He nodded, but not strongly enough. Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think so. That's when fear showed up. Not loud fear. Quiet fear. The kind that makes you question your own reflection. The next day, Marcus didn't joke with me. Ethan barely spoke. The group chat went silent unless I wasn't part of the conversation. I felt like I was standing outside my own life, watching it happen through glass. I wanted to scream. I wanted to explain. I wanted someone to just ask me, but no one did. And the worst part? I started doubting myself. I replayed every moment of that project in my head. Every file, every message, every late night. I wondered if I had accidentally crossed a line without realizing it. That's how lies work. They don't just attack your reputation. They go after your sense of reality. One afternoon, I overheard two classmates talking behind me. I heard he's not trustworthy, one of them said. Yeah, the other replied. Wouldn't want to be on a team with him. I kept walking like I didn't hear a thing. But inside, something broke. I had worked so hard to be good, to be fair, to be honest, to be someone people could rely on. And now, one lie was rewriting my entire story. I went back to my room and sat on the floor. Didn't turn on the lights. Just sat there, knees pulled in, staring at nothing. That was the moment loneliness stopped being quiet. It got loud. I realized something that night. Friendship isn't tested during the good times. It's tested the moment doubt shows up. And doubt had moved in. Days passed. Then weeks. No one confronted me. No one defended me. Not even Jake. That hurt the most. Because silence is a choice. And everyone was choosing it. I tried to clear my name. I showed messages, drafts, timestamps. But by then, people had already made up their minds. The truth doesn't travel as fast as a lie. And sometimes, it never catches up. I watched my friends drift away without saying goodbye. No big fight. No closure. Just distance growing like a wall brick by brick. One night, Marcus finally said something. Not to me. About me. I heard it through someone else. He just doesn't feel genuine anymore, Marcus had said. I don't know. Something about him feels off. That was it. That was the final nail. Because once someone questions your character, facts stop matching. I stopped eating much. Lost weight. Slept too much or not at all. My grades slipped. Motivation disappeared. I wasn't angry. I was tired. Tired of explaining. Tired of hoping. Tired of feeling like I had to prove my worth just to exist. College was supposed to be about becoming someone. Instead, I was watching myself disappear. And the scariest part? No one noticed. Or maybe they did, and chose not to care. After a while, I stopped trying to explain myself. Not because I was guilty, but because I was exhausted. There's a special kind of tired that settles into your bones when you realize the people you trusted have already made up their minds. You can show facts. You can show proof. You can speak from the deepest part of your chest. And it still won't matter. Because belief is louder than truth. I started sitting in the back of classrooms. Head down. Hoodie up. I showed up, but only physically. Mentally, I was somewhere else. Somewhere quieter. Somewhere safer. I noticed how quickly people replace you. Marcus found new people to joke with. Ethan paired up with smarter students. Jake. He spent more time anywhere that wasn't our room. That one hurt in a slow way. We still shared the same space, but we didn't share silence anymore. The kind of silence where you don't need words. This one was sharp. Awkward. Full of things neither of us wanted to say. Sometimes he'd come in late, smelling like cheap food and colder air. Sometimes he wouldn't come back until morning. And every time the door closed behind him, it felt like another reminder. I was alone in a room meant for two. One night, I finally asked him straight, "Do you believe them?" He froze for a second. Just 1 second. But I saw it. That pause said more than any answer could. "I don't know what to believe," he said. That sentence destroyed something inside me. Because friendship isn't about knowing everything. It's about choosing someone when things get unclear. And he didn't choose me. After that, I stopped asking questions. I moved through days like a ghost. Ate alone. Walked alone. Thought alone. There were moments when I wanted to scream. Moments when I imagined standing in front of everyone and telling my side. Moments when I wanted to break something just to feel real again. But I didn't. I stayed quiet. Because deep down, I still hoped someone would come to me. Someone would say, "Hey, this doesn't add up." Someone would give me the benefit of the doubt. That hope slowly faded. And that's when the lie finished its job. It didn't just take my friends. It took my confidence. I started questioning every interaction, every smile, every comment. I wondered how many people saw me as the guy who cheated instead of the guy who cared. Your reputation follows you silently. It walks into rooms before you do. One afternoon, I got called into a professor's office. My stomach dropped. He didn't accuse me outright. He didn't need to. The look on his face said enough. "I've heard concerns," he said calmly, "about your contribution to group work." I explained. Slowly, carefully. I showed him everything. He nodded. "I believe you," he said. Those 3 words almost broke me. Not because everything was fixed, but because it was the first time in weeks someone actually listened. Still, the damage was done. Belief from authority doesn't heal betrayal from friends. The semester dragged on. Winter crept in. Days got shorter. Nights got longer. And loneliness felt heavier in the cold. I spent more time thinking about home. About who I was before all this. About how excited I had been to start college. How proud my parents were when they dropped me off. I wondered what they'd say if they knew. Probably nothing. They raised me to endure quietly. But endurance has a cost. I started writing late at night. Not for school. Just to get the noise out of my head. Pages full of thoughts I'd never say out loud. Questions with no answers. Pain without direction. That's when I realized something important. The lie wasn't just about cheating. It was about trust. Once trust is gone, everything else falls apart. Toward the end of the semester, Jake finally spoke again. Not as a friend. As a stranger trying to clear his conscience. "I should have stood up for you," he said one night, staring at the floor. I waited. "I didn't," he continued, "because I didn't want to be dragged into it." There it was. Fear. That's what this was really about. Not truth. Not justice. Fear of being next. I nodded. Not because I forgave him, but because I understood. People protect themselves first. Almost always. He asked if we were okay. I didn't answer right away. Sometimes silence is the most honest response. That semester ended without closure. No apology from Marcus. No explanation from Ethan. Just distance. Just time moving forward like nothing happened. But something had changed in me. I was quieter now. More careful. Less open. I had learned something I never wanted to learn so early in life. That people you laugh with today can doubt you tomorrow. And sometimes, the lie doesn't need proof. It just needs the right audience. By the time the next semester started, I wasn't the same person anymore. I looked the same. Same face. Same body. Same walk across campus. But inside, something had shifted. Something heavier had taken root. I used to walk into places expecting warmth. Now I walked in expecting distance. I had learned how fast people can change when a story turns against you. How quickly smiles turn careful. How laughter turns polite. How silence becomes the loudest sound in the room. I picked my seat in every class like it was a defense move. Back row. Near the exit. Somewhere I could disappear if I needed to. I didn't raise my hand anymore. Didn't crack jokes. Didn't try to be noticed. I had learned that attention is dangerous. Jake moved out early that semester. Said he needed a different environment. Different energy. He packed his stuff in silence. No fight. No argument. Just boxes and taped corners. When he closed the door for the last time, I didn't feel angry. I felt empty. That room had held so many late-night talks. So many stupid laughs. So many moments where I thought, this is what brotherhood feels like. Now it felt like a place where something had died quietly. I tried making new friends. That was harder than I expected. Not because people were cruel, but because I was guarded. I listened more than I spoke. Smiled without letting it reach my eyes. Shared facts, never feelings. When someone asked where I was from, I answered. When they asked how I was doing, I said, good. That word became a shield. Good meant, I'm surviving. Good meant, please don't ask more. Good meant, I don't trust you yet. Some nights, I lay awake thinking about how one lie had reshaped my entire college experience. I wondered who I would have been if it never happened. More confident, more open, more hopeful. That version of me felt like someone I used to know. There was one night that stands out more than the rest. It was raining hard. The kind of rain that soaks everything and makes the world feel smaller. I had just left the library late. My backpack was heavy, not with books, but with thoughts. As I walked past the student center, I saw Marcus, laughing, surrounded by people. The same loud laugh, the same energy, the same ease. And for a moment, something ugly rose inside me. Not anger, grief. Because he didn't lose anything. I did. He didn't look over, didn't notice me. And maybe that was better, because I didn't know what I'd do if our eyes met. I went back to my room and sat on the bed, still wearing my wet jacket. Didn't turn on the lights. Just sat there. That was the night I finally let myself feel it. Not just the betrayal, not just the isolation, but the fear. Fear that this would follow me forever. Fear that people would always believe the worst first. Fear that no matter how good I tried to be, one lie could erase it all again. I realized something painful that night. College wasn't teaching me academics. It was teaching me how fragile identity is. How reputation is something you don't fully control. How silence can be mistaken for guilt. How kindness doesn't protect you from suspicion. I cried quietly. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just tears falling without sound. The kind you wipe away fast, like you're embarrassed even alone. I didn't feel weak. I felt human. The next morning, I looked at myself in the mirror longer than usual. Dark circles under my eyes. Tired expression. A man growing older too fast. I promised myself something then. Not revenge. Not confrontation. Something quieter. I promised I would never abandon someone just because it was easier to believe a story. I promised I would listen before judging. Because I knew how it felt to be alone in the middle of noise. As the semester went on, life slowly stabilized. Not happier. Just steadier. I learned how to exist without expecting validation. How to keep moving even when trust felt risky. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Because unresolved pain doesn't disappear. It waits. There's a strange thing about pain you don't talk about. It doesn't scream. It doesn't demand attention. It waits. By the time spring showed up, I had learned how to live with it. Not heal it. Just carry it. Like a quiet weight I adjusted to over time. Classes went on. Exams came and went. People laughed. People planned futures. Life kept moving forward like nothing had happened. And on the outside, I looked fine. I showed up. I passed my classes. I smiled when required. But inside, I was still living in that moment when everything changed. Still standing in the shadow of a lie that never got corrected. Then one afternoon, something unexpected happened. I was sitting in the campus cafe, nursing a cheap coffee I didn't even want. Just needed a place to sit that wasn't my room. My headphones were in, but no music was playing. That's when I heard my name. Not called. Spoken. Low. Careful. I didn't look up right away. I wasn't sure I wanted to know who was saying it. I still feel bad about what happened to him, a voice said. It was Ethan. My chest tightened. Another voice answered. A girl I didn't recognize. You mean the cheating thing? No, Ethan said. That wasn't true. My heart started pounding. That whole thing got twisted, he continued. It started as a misunderstanding. Then people ran with it. I should have spoken up. I felt frozen in my chair. So why didn't you? The girl asked. There was a pause. Because it was easier not to, Ethan said. Those words hit harder than any accusation ever could. Easier. That was it. Not because he believed the lie. Not because there was proof. But because silence was comfortable. I didn't turn around. I didn't confront him. I just sat there, listening, as the truth finally breathed out loud. He didn't deserve that, Ethan added quietly. But once people decided, there was no stopping it. When they left, I stayed seated long after. Coffee cold, hands shaking slightly. I had waited so long for someone to say those words. And now that they existed, I didn't feel relief. I felt tired. Because the truth came too late to change anything. That night, I walked alone across campus. The air felt lighter, but my chest didn't. I kept thinking about how close the truth had been all along. How a single sentence at the right time could have changed everything. But it wasn't said. Not then. A few days later, Marcus messaged me. Out of nowhere. Hey man, can we talk? I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. Sure. We met near the old benches by the library. The ones where students carved their initials like they were leaving proof they existed. Marcus didn't look confident anymore. No jokes. No loud energy. Just a guy standing awkwardly with his hands in his pockets. I heard some stuff, he said. About the project. I waited. I think I messed up, he admitted. I shouldn't have assumed things. Assumed. Another gentle word for betrayal. I never cheated, I said calmly. I know, he replied. Now. That word burned quietly. He apologized. Not dramatically. Not emotionally. Just words, lined up carefully like he was checking boxes. I listened. And then I said something that surprised even me. I forgive you, I said. Not because he deserved it, but because I was done carrying it. Forgiveness isn't about letting people off the hook. It's about letting yourself breathe again. Marcus nodded. Thanked me. Walked away. And that was it. No reunion. No friendship restored. No happy ending. Just closure. Later that night, I realized something important. The lie didn't ruin me. The silence did. The people who stayed quiet. The people who chose comfort over courage. The people who watched and did nothing. That hurt more than the lie ever could. But it also taught me something I'll never forget. Not everyone who smiles at you is brave enough to stand up for you. And not everyone who betrays you does it out of hate. Sometimes, they do it out of fear. After that spring, something inside me shifted again. Not like before. Not like I suddenly felt lighter. It was quieter, subtler. Something had settled into the way I carried myself. Something I couldn't really explain to anyone else, but I could feel it. I realized I wasn't the same person who walked onto campus freshman year. That guy had been loud, hopeful, trusting, open in ways that now seemed naive. And the truth? That guy had been broken down, piece by piece, by one simple lie. It wasn't dramatic. No fights. No yelling. Just whispers. Just assumptions. Just silence. I walked across campus differently now. My shoulders felt heavier, but steadier. My pace slower, more deliberate. I didn't rush to impress anyone. I didn't need validation from the people who had abandoned me or doubted me. I started noticing things I hadn't before. How much effort people put into appearances. How quickly someone will believe what they want, rather than what's true. How fear can shape behavior, more than honesty ever will. I kept writing every night. Not journals. Not letters. Just words that spilled out like water I hadn't realized I was holding. Pages full of anger, grief, questions, small victories, and tiny realizations about myself. Through writing, I saw patterns. I saw how much of my self-worth had been tied to other people's opinions. I saw how much time I had wasted trying to prove that one lie wasn't real. And slowly, I understood something fundamental. The only validation that mattered was my own. I started taking classes seriously again. Not for anyone else. Not to prove anyone wrong. But because I wanted to. Because I had to. And little by little, life became bearable again. I started connecting with people in small ways. People who didn't know the story, people who weren't part of the old drama. I didn't dive into friendships head first. I didn't trust immediately. But I listened. I smiled. I shared small truths without fear. And the amazing thing? People responded. It wasn't loud or obvious, but it was genuine, real. I realized something important about trust. About friendship. About human nature. Trust isn't given automatically. It's earned. And sometimes, it's something you have to take back slowly after it's been broken. I also realized something about anger and resentment. Holding on to it doesn't protect you. It only weighs you down. I had spent months thinking about revenge. About proving my innocence. About making them see. But it never would have mattered. Because the people who needed to believe me never would. Forgiveness, though, forgiveness was different. I didn't forgive to restore old friendships. I forgave to restore myself. To stop carrying their silence like a weight. To stop letting one lie define the person I was. By the end of that year, I had stopped looking for validation outside of myself. I smiled more. Not because everything was perfect. Not because life was fair. But because I felt steady inside. I felt real. The lie had changed me, yes. But it hadn't destroyed me. And that, more than anything, felt like a victory. I also learned another quiet truth. Pain is temporary, but lessons last forever. It's the experiences you don't choose, the betrayals you don't expect, the moments that shake your confidence to its core. Those are the moments that shape who you will eventually become. I didn't become bitter. I became wiser. I didn't become closed. I became selective. I didn't become someone else. I became myself. By graduation, I was ready to leave campus. Not with the same excitement I had freshman year, but with calm certainty. I had survived a lie. I had survived betrayal. I had survived silence. And for the first time in years, I felt like I could stand tall, not because anyone believed in me, but because I believed in myself. The truth had caught up, eventually. And when it did, it wasn't a celebration. It was a quiet reminder. Life doesn't always make sense, but resilience is born in the spaces that hurt the most. After graduation, I walked across the stage feeling a strange mix of relief and heaviness. Relief because it was over. Heaviness because I carried so much of the past with me. I didn't think about the lie every day anymore. Not like I used to. Not like it used to gnaw at my chest. But it was still there, quietly shaping my choices, reminding me to be cautious, to listen, to trust carefully. The first few months after leaving campus were surreal. No lectures. No group projects. No familiar faces. Just me and the world outside, which suddenly felt enormous. I stayed in touch with a few people I had met later in college. People who hadn't been caught up in old rumors. They didn't care about the past. They only cared about who I was now. That was liberating. That was new. That was real. One evening, I sat alone on a park bench. The sky was bruised purple with the sunset. I thought about my friends, Marcus, Ethan, Jake. I thought about the lie that had changed everything. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel hurt. I felt understanding. Not everyone will be brave. Not everyone will defend you. Not everyone will see the truth. Sometimes, people fail you not because they are cruel, but because they are scared. That didn't excuse what happened. It didn't make it fair. But it helped me stop holding on to bitterness. I realized that carrying anger, resentment, or regret only gives the other person control over your life. And I didn't want that anymore. I started writing letters, not to send, but to release. To people who had hurt me. To people I had hurt. To myself. I wrote everything. The pain, the fear, the confusion, the loneliness. And then I folded the letters, put them away, and didn't look back. I began to see the value in silence. Not the silence of avoidance, but the silence that lets you process, reflect, and grow. I began to see the importance of boundaries, not shutting people out, but choosing carefully who gets to stand in your life. And I began to see the power of resilience, not just surviving what happens to you, but letting it shape you into someone stronger, quieter, wiser. I thought about trust differently now. It wasn't given blindly. It wasn't about what others promised. It was about what I could rely on in myself. I thought about forgiveness differently too. Forgiveness wasn't letting someone off the hook. It was letting myself breathe. By the time I got my first real job, I felt like a different person. Not better, not perfect, just more steady, more aware, more prepared for the reality that not everyone will support you, but that doesn't define you. I walked into the office building on my first day and didn't feel small, didn't feel afraid, didn't feel like I had to prove anything to anyone. I had already survived the hardest test, betrayal from people I trusted, and I had survived myself. I learned that life isn't about avoiding lies, betrayals, or hurt. It's about navigating them with integrity, with honesty, and with patience. It's about choosing who you let in. It's about knowing when to let go. It's about understanding that your value isn't determined by other people's perception of you. I still think about college sometimes. About the laughter I lost, the friendships that ended, the nights I spent crying on my dorm floor. But those memories are no longer sharp. They're soft now, lessons etched into the fabric of who I am. And I carry them quietly, like a map that guides me toward honesty, careful trust, and the strength to face life as myself. Nothing more, nothing less. Looking back now, years later, I can see it all clearly. The lie, the betrayal, the silence, the fear, the loneliness, the anger, the grief. All of it shaped me. All of it taught me something I could never have learned any other way. I don't tell this story for sympathy. I don't tell it for revenge. I tell it because someone out there needs to hear it. Your worth isn't tied to the people who doubt you. It isn't tied to rumors, lies, or mistakes that others fabricate. It's tied to one thing. One quiet, stubborn truth. Who you choose to be, no matter what happens. I learned to trust carefully. Not blindly, but not cynically. I learned that some people will fail you because they are afraid, not because you're unworthy. And I learned that forgiving yourself is just as important as forgiving others. There were nights when I doubted myself. Nights when I replayed the words, the moments, the silence. Nights when I wondered if I had done something to deserve it. But the truth is, I didn't deserve it. No one does. And yet, life doesn't wait for justice. Life moves forward, and we have to move with it. I also learned that pain is not permanent, but lessons are. Betrayal is not the end. It's the beginning of understanding who you are, and who you are not willing to let define you. I've seen people make mistakes, spread lies, and walk away untouched. And I've seen people suffer silently, alone, carrying what wasn't theirs to bear. I was one of those people. And surviving it taught me something invaluable. Resilience isn't loud. It's quiet. It doesn't boast. It doesn't need applause. It's the strength to show up every day, the courage to be honest, the patience to let life unfold even when it hurts. I forgive my friends, not because everything is fixed, not because I expect them to act differently, but because forgiveness frees the one who forgives more than the one being forgiven. I also forgive myself for trusting too easily, for hoping too much, for being human. And that forgiveness gave me something I never had before: peace. Peace to walk into the world without fear of judgment. Peace to build real relationships based on honesty, not expectation. Peace to know my value isn't tied to someone else's belief in me. I still carry scars. I will always carry the memory of those nights alone. But the scars remind me, I survived. I learned. I grew. And that's the story I want to leave you with. Life will test you. People will betray you. Lies will spread. Silence will hurt. But your truth, your integrity, your choices, your resilience will always remain yours. No one can take it away. So hold it close. Protect it. And remember, the world may not see your worth, but you do. And that is enough. I walked away from college that day not with friends restored, not with accolades, not with applause, but with myself intact. And that, more than anything, mattered. Because in the end, the only person you can always count on is yourself. And learning that lesson quietly, painfully, and fully, that is how we become whole.